After that, we're actually having the what? We are also having the asymptotes. Remember, when we speak about the asymptote, is the line that the graph will never meet. So we're having the asymptote that goes in this direction. So in maths, you're always going to have the asymptote as well as the what? The axis of symmetry. So when you speak about the axis of symmetry, is the line that divides the graph into two equal parts. But the asymptote is the graph that will never meet or touch the graph. Is a line that will never meet or touch the graph. That is an asymptote. So the blue line, it represents the asymptote, just like that. So this is what basically we are having. And then as I try to continue filling the information, we know that that's going to be our x-axis. Always, this is going to be our x-axis. And then always, that will be your y-axis. So those are some of the things that you must actually know. And then here, we are given these values to say, right here, that is the value of c. And then here we are given that as a. So it means to say where these two graphs they meet is the value of a right there. And then here we are having the value of b. So that will be b. And then this will be d right here. And then we know that this one is always going to be 0. Whether we like it or not, this one is always going to be 0. 0 is the point of origin just right there. And then this one is the graph of g of x. This one is the graph of g of x. Let me try to write it neatly. So this is the graph of g of x. The green graph, it's a g of x. It's an exponential function. And then the yellow graph is the graph of f of x. It's a parabolic function. So the unfortunate part is that I have not yet taught you exponential functions, but I'm going to teach you how basically we deal with that. And then that will be the introductory part of us dealing with exponential functions, because the next part from here, it will be me teaching exponential functions as we'll be wrapping up parabolas. So 1,3, it's just that this question, it comprises of an exponential function. Here we're having 1 and 3. This question comprises of an exponential function as well as a parabola. So what am I leaving behind? Yes, those are things which you are having. And then with regards to our questions, now as we're solving our questions, so these are going to be our questions right here. So with regards to our questions, number 1, they're saying write down. Number 1, write. Okay, let me do like this. Write write down. Write down the coordinates of D. Write down the coordinates of D. The coordinates of D. So they want us to write down the coordinates of D. I'm going to show you how basically we deal with that. Then as we go to number 2, what do they want? Write down the range. Write down the range. So they want the range of g of x. Write down the range of g of x. Then as we go to number 3, what do they want? Calculate the coordinates of A. Calculate the coordinates of A. Then as we go to number 4, calculate the value of A and Q. Calculate the values of A and Q. So these are the only questions which you're going to attempt with regards to this. So one thing that you basically need to know is to just try to look at the information given. So they're saying the sketch below are graphs, right? They are graphs of f of x equals to ax squared plus q. So that is the equation. This one is an equation of a parabola. If you didn't know this one, it's an equation of a parabola. If you check the previous lessons, you'll basically see how basically I explained the basics of parabola. So that is a parabola. And then this one of g of x, it's what we call an exponential function. It's an equation of an exponential function. So for you to be able to know how to master the equation of an exponential function, it needs you basically to know the basics. It needs you to know the basics. So they're saying A and B are the x-intercept. So when you look at A and B, they represent the x-intercept, right, of that parabola, as well as that of an exponential function. And then they're saying the graph intersected A and point E lies on f of x. So the graph, they intersected point A, you can actually see here, this is the point of intersection. So when you say the point of intersection, that's where the two graphs, they meet. Ne? Also here is the point of intersection. That's another point where the two graphs, they meet. It's just that they didn't give us a coordinate for this one, right? And then they're saying C is the turning point. So as you can see, C is the turning point, which is just right there. They're saying write down the coordinates of D. Now we are dealing with solutions. So for you to write down the solutions. So these are our solutions. So for you to be able to write down the solutions, you must locate the point of D. Can you see that D is right here? So since D is right there, you will take, or since D it lies on the equation of an exponential function, it basically means to say you'll take the equation of an exponential function. You're gonna take the equation of that exponential function, and then since D it lies on this graph of an exponential function, it represents the y-intercept. So we are mainly gonna look at the y-intercept. And before that, you know that since we are working with D, always the coordinate is always gonna be x followed by y. And one thing that you need to understand, since the value of D, it lies on the y-axis, this basically means to say the coordinate of D that represents the x value for D is going to be 0. You know why I'm saying it's 0? It's because of on the y-axis, and what happens? On the y-axis, x is always 0. And then here, it's not guesswork. I'm showing you. You must get a negative y value. So since the same, we must write them down. I'm going to show you that here we need to expect the negative answer. You know why? It's because of this D. It is slightly below the point of origin, which is 0 and 0. So since this D, it falls on the negative side on the y-axis, it means to say your answer must be negative y here. So our answer, though we don't know now, we are going to get the negative y value. But for you to be able to see it, now let's take the equation of this exponential function, and then we want the y-intercept because that is where the value of D it is. So another thing that you need to understand is that since they say write down, you can simply go to the equation and take it as it is. So that value, it means to say we're gonna have it being what? We're gonna have it being you can get it like this. Let me show you the correct way in which you can do that. Because if I'm just gonna teach you part by part, you might not be able to see. So take the equation of what? Of g of x. Let's write it down. So g of x, though we didn't need to calculate it, but I'm just doing this correctly for the sake of someone. So here we are having 1 over 2. So it's 1 over 2 to the power of x, and then right minus 4. So since we are looking at finding the y-intercept, you'll just say y-intercepts, right, comma, let x is equals to 0. Let x is equals to 0. So it means to say you're going to write the equation of g of x as it is. It's equals to, and then you write 1 over 2. Let's just write it as it is. Then we're going to substitute on the next step. Then that is x, and then you say minus 4. So the next step that basically you need to do, this is what you're going to do. g of x is the same as y. So write it as y. It's equals to 1 over 2, 1 over 2 to the exponent of what? Of x, then you minus 4. And then now since you said let x is equals to 0, it means to say you are now substituting x is equals to 0. It means to say where you see x, you're going to put 0. So that will be 1 over 2. There you go. You can see that I'm having x. So I'm going to substitute by 0 and say minus 4. So you can punch this on the calculator, or you can do it like this. Since you understand that, okay, this is y. Since you understand that anything to the power of 0 is 1. So that will be 1 minus 4. And then you get the final answer. Therefore, the value of y is equals to, that should be negative 3. So you go back to what I was trying to elaborate. So since our y is negative 3, can you see that here? There was a main reason why I did explain it like this. So this one, it doesn't have an effect, this one, since you understand to say, okay, on the y-axis, your x is always 0. But there's a reason why I explained to say you're going to get a negative answer, right? So it means to say now since you understood how basically I got it, you'll say, therefore, the coordinates of D is going to be 0 together with negative 3. So D, it's 0 and negative 3, the correct answers, right? And then let's go back to number 2. We are done finding that. Now we are answering number 2. So we are done finding the coordinates of D, which is D is 0 and negative 3 right there. And then number 2, they're saying write down the range of g of x. They want us to write the range of g of x. So when we speak about the range, so here they want us to write down the range. In maths, when we speak about the range, I've tried to explain on previous videos what do we mean basically by the range. So range is all possible values of y. So one thing that you need to understand, this green graph, it should not touch the what? It should not touch the asymptote. So this blue dotted lines, it represents the asymptote. And one thing that you need to understand is that since this is an exponential function, from this equation right here, g of x is equals to 1 over 2 to the exponent of x minus 4. It simply means to say this negative 4, it represents the equation of that asymptote. So this asymptote is the same as me writing q, it's equals to negative 4. So that is the equation of that asymptote, right? And then, since they want us to write the equation of the asymptote of g of x, which is the equation of the asymptote of the green graph, it means to say, since that q is equals to negative 4, it represents the asymptote. I've tried to explain to say the asymptote is the line that will never meet the graph, or the asymptote, it is the line that will never touch that green graph. So it means to say, since they want the range, you know that the range is all possible values of y. You're just going to say y, since we're writing down the range, y is an element of real numbers, ne? Comma, where y is not equals to negative 4. So you'll say y is an element of real numbers, comma, where y is not equals to what? Negative 4. Or someone can just try to write it like this. Someone will basically write it like this. We'll just say y is an element of real numbers, comma, where y is what? Y is greater than negative 4. Right? You can just write it like that, which is this one right here. Still going to be correct. Or what you can do, because you writing the range, you can write it in an inequality form like the one that I've just wrote, or in an interval form. So another person will just prefer to write it like this. Will say, myself, I prefer writing it like this. Y is an element of real numbers. Or will say y is an element of brace. Y is an element of brace. Because you know that I've tried to explain to say you write the brace where you know your graph kuti 𝗂𝗂𝗀. So that will be negative 4, comma. So this graph, the green graph, it goes upwards. So it is up to positive infinity. And then you write a small bracket. Right? So if it was myself, I will just write it like that. The second one, I will just write it like that. Right? but you need to know the difference to say the one that we just written like this one, it's in an inequality form. So this is the range in an inequality form. Inequality form. And then this one is the range in an interval form. Interval form. So one thing that you need to understand, you can write the range in an inequality form, or you can just write the range in an interval form. So the thing is that the one that you basically write in an inequality form, you must use inequality signs. And then the one that you must write in an interval form, you must use braces and a bracket. So one mistake that you should never do is that whenever you write the range in an interval form, you always use the brace where you know the graph that it starts here or it ends up here. If you don't know that the graph started there or it ended up there, it means to say you're going to use what? A small bracket. So those are some of the things that are very important with regards to you knowing when to write a range using a braces or when to write the range using a small bracket. Any question?
No questions.
Okay, do you all understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Now we are done calculating the first one, right? As well as the second one. So they will also ask you the range as well as the domain, right? So number 3, they say calculate the coordinates of A. So they want us to calculate the coordinates of A. So when you look at A represents the x-intercept. So since this question wants you to calculate the coordinates of A, you can use either one of the two graphs, right? But in this instance, since when you look at, you are still going to be correct if you calculate the coordinates of A, which is the x-intercept of a parabola, the yellow graph, or you calculate the x-intercept of an exponential function, the green graph, because they didn't give you a concept that you need to basically follow with regards to you calculating the coordinates of A. So you will be favored if you are using either one of the two equations. But the tricky part is that when you look at the statement that you are given, our parabola is in terms of the unknown sides. And then g of x, which is the green graph, it's in terms of what? In terms of the equation that is fully given right there. So it means to say, since the one of a parabola is having incomplete values for a and q, we're going to leave that. Then we're going to use the equation of g of x, because here we are basically having our equation in a standard form of an exponential function. Then I'm looking at finding the x-intercepts. Do you get to see that? So it means to say those are some of the things that you'll basically get. Uh, so now we are doing number 3. So since now we are on number 3, I'm just gonna do like this. Please make sure that if you don't understand, you let me know so that I can basically assist you in order for you to master that. So since I've just explained to say we are not gonna use the equation of a parabola, we are just gonna simply use the equation of an exponential function represented by g of x, right? So these are typical exam questions. You'll get them in an exam. It's equals to, so that is 1/2 to the exponent of what? To the exponent of x, right? And then you say -4. So since we want our x-intercept, and mind you, let me show you something before I proceed. Since now we calculate the coordinates of A, our coordinates of A with regards to x, it will be a negative x value together with 0. You know why I'm saying it's going to be a negative x value together with 0. So those are the coordinates that you must expect there. It's because of the reason why I'm saying it's negative. When you look at this coordinate, it's on the negative side on the x-axis. Hence, it makes the x value at A that represents the x-intercept to be negative. That's why I'm writing it like that. And then on the x-axis again, we know that the y value is 0. So it's going to be 0. So it means to say we're going to get a negative answer for x as well as 0 representing the y value at point A. So since now you understand that we are looking at finding our x-intercept, you're just going to say x-intercepts, comma, let y is equals to 0. Let y is equals to 0, comma, solve for x. Then we are solving for x. Solve for x. So you rewrite that equation as in like g of x it's equals to what? G of x, it's equals to, that will be 1 over 2 to the exponent of x. Then you say minus 4. So one thing that you need to always remember, not to forget, is that when we speak about g of x, is the same as us speaking about y. Because g of x, it represents y. So what you're going to do, you're just going to say y, it's equals to, we write it properly as 1 over 2 to the exponent of x, and then you say minus 4. So since now, in a place of y, we're going to put 0. That will be 0. It's equals to, then you write 1 over 2 to the power of x, then you say minus 4. So the next step that you are supposed to do, we're going to take that negative 4, we transpose it to the left-hand side. When you take negative 4, transposing it to the left-hand side, it means to say the answer is going to be positive. So that will be positive 4. It's equals to what? Positive 4. It's equals to, what is this thing of writing? Sorry for that. Positive 4. It's equals to, and then you write 1 over 2 to the power of x. Let me do like this so that we don't waste time. So this is what you're going to do. Just a second. Yeah, let me fix where I was writing. Yeah, so it's going to be 1 over 2, sorry for that, to the power of x. And then what basically you can do here, you can change this. We know that 4 is the same as 2 squared. That will give us 4. And then what you can basically do, you can change that half. So 1 over 2, we're going to write it in a negative exponent. So it's the same as 2 to the exponent of negative 1. So this thing is delaying to write. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah. Let me try to see. Yeah. So you're going to write that as 2. We're going to write that as 2 to the exponent of negative 1. Sorry about that. Because 2 to the exponent of negative 1 is the same as, let me write it properly. And in short, this one, we are having 4. 4 is the same as 2 squared. And then you say equals to, then this is half. Half is the same as 2 to the exponent of negative 1. It gives you half. And then don't forget that exponent right there. So this one, you're just going to leave it as 2 to the exponent of 2. It's equals to, your base in this case, you're going to say 2. Then you utilize the laws of exponent. Negative 1 times x, it's going to be negative 1x. And then math says when the bases are the same, you equate the exponents. So let me equate my exponent. That will be 2. It's equals to negative 1x. And then now you solve for x, you divide by negative 1 both sides. Because math says what you do on the left-hand side, you also do it on the right-hand side. And then negative cancels negative, x equals to negative 2. X is equals to negative 2. Therefore, x is equals to negative 2. So there's a reason why I wanted to show you the answer before you can even find it. Can you see that we got a negative answer? Do you know why we are getting a negative answer? We are getting a negative answer simply because of what I've just explained here. To say, just because of that x value, it's on the negative side. So we're going to get that. So it means to say, with regards to the coordinates of A, since you know that a coordinate is formed by an x value as well as the y value. And then that's because of our x-intercept, we got negative 2. This basically means to say, therefore, the coordinate of A is going to be negative 2 and 0. Negative 2 together with 0. So after getting your answers, it's a must that you must write them on the diagram if you want, right? So we are done calculating the coordinate of A, right? And then there's a reason, because you know these questions, they work hand in hand. So when you look at number 3 and number 4, they work hand in hand. So number 4, they want you to calculate the values of A and Q, of which A and Q, they are those values that basically appear on the equation of a parabola. But before that, since now we got our answer for A, that's why I'm saying after getting the value of A, make sure that you write it on the diagram, because that information, it will basically help you. So now let's write our coordinate for A. So you have an insight to say, you know what? Now the coordinate of A, you got it, it's -2 and 0. So since that is -2 and 0 is the coordinate that lies both on the equation of a parabola as well as the equation of an exponential function, it means to say now they want us to find the coordinate of what? They want us to find the values of A and Q. So A and Q is this one right here, of which Q represent what? Q represent Q represent what? Q represent the turning point right there. And one thing that you need to understand is that since this is A and B, this A and B, the x-intercept, can you see? They are going to be distributed evenly so. And then here we know that that equation of the y-axis, it acts as the axis of symmetry, not an asymptote. So I want this blue line here, it represents the asymptote. Let me just write asymptote. So when I speak about an asymptote, is the line that divides the graph into two equal parts. Ne? And then this one, that x as the y-axis, it's representing the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is the line that divides the graph into two equal parts. Ne? So we are having point E right there, because they're saying point E, which is 1 and 3, it lies on f of x. So since now they want us to calculate the values of Q, who can give us an insight to say what are we going to do? Though I'm here to show you what you need to do correctly. Let me just give this opportunity to someone who maybe want to share how basically we're going to do that. How are we going to find that? How can we best find that? How can we best find that? So they want us to find the values of A and Q. And one thing that you need to understand again, you go back to the information that I taught you with regards to our parabol. Wabana, that yellow graph, it's facing downwards. But before that, let's write the equation of that yellow graph. So the equation that they are giving us, it's f of x. Okay, let me do like this. It's f of x. It's equals to what? That is ax squared plus q. Ax squared plus q. So the A represents the shape. Don't forget from the basics of what I've just taught you. And one thing that you need to understand is that since our A is less than 0, this basically means to say when we are going to draw our graph, this basically means to say our graph is going to be facing downwards. So our graph will be facing simply downwards. You know why? Because the value of A is negative. So by just going even further, this A, it should be a negative answer. And then this Q again, just because of Q, it cuts at C exactly. If you still remember the basic that I've taught you, I even made an example to say, whenever you have a graph that is like this, what happens? The value of A is less than 0, and then the value of Q is greater than 0. So it means to say, A, we're going to get the negative answer. Q, we're going to get an answer that is greater than 0, because Q, it cuts there automatically at C. Do you see, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any question with regards to finding this? Any solution or any way forward in which we can find, though I'm going to assist you just now, I want to see if you are listening or not. Any regards with or any insights that we need to do in order for us to find that? Who can tell us what we are going to do? Do you all understand? Any question? I'm just gonna show you now what you need to do. Any question?
No question, miss.
Okay. So calculate the values of A and Q, A and Q, A and Q, A and Q. So one thing that you need to understand, with regards to the value of A, we know that we're gonna get a what? A negative answer. And then with regards to the value of Q, we know that we're gonna get what? A positive answer. So they even made our job to be much easier because of what? Sorry, because of we are having those points on the graph. So one thing that you need to understand, okay, the y-axis x as an axis of symmetry, and then the coordinates of A is -2 and 0. It means to say the value of B here, it's a must that we're gonna get 2 and 0. You know why? It's because of, it's just that I didn't draw the diagram accurately. So, but if I were to send the picture on the group, you'll be basically seeing it accurately. Okay, let me do that so that you can see. And then we're gonna proceed just now. I want to show you what you need to basically do. Look at the picture that I've just sent on the group now. So that picture, as you can see it, it shows you directly what? It shows you directly point A and point B. That's what I'm saying. If you were to get this, it's gonna be what? It's gonna be 2 and 0. Not only that, you can also try to use the formula for the midpoint. Take in consideration to say that y-axis, we know that the x is 0. Ne? So let me show you something for you to get the coordinates of B. So we all know the formula for midpoint. X at C, let me just say the midpoint at C is equals to x at what? X at A plus x at B divided by 2. I want to show you something. X at B, and then divided by 2. So the reason I'm saying x at C, it's kind of like us, we are saying we are looking for the midpoint. But in matter of fact, we know the coordinates of C. We know the x coordinate at C, which is going to be 0. So x coordinate at C, we know that that is going to be 0. Because I get it's kind of like you interpreting to say that is the midpoint of the 2 points. Ne? And then you're going to say plus, you're going to say equals to, so to say. And get x at C is 0. You're going to write 0, and then there is an equals to here. You write equals to. And then let's check x at A. So what is x at A? X at A, we got -2. So you'll just say -2 plus, we want to get the x at B. Okay, seems like I'm getting a different answer. Just write x at B over 2. But I'm confident enough to say I'm going to get 2. So after you are getting this, remember this is over 1, you cross multiply. You know the reason why I'm showing you this. This, you know, in maths, there are many ways to actually solve any mathematical problem. So the reason I'm using this formula. This formula is coming from the midpoint formula. There's a reason why I send you that picture on the group to be able to see, to say the graph that basically we are working with, or the one that I've just drawn, it is distributed evenly. So it's kind of like equal. That's why I'm,
Mister.
yes,
So on point A,
yeah,
the x is -2,
yes, the x is -2.
right?
Yes, because
Isn't it?
going, yeah,
So that +2 on point B, isn't it also an x?
it's an x. But I'm showing you, actually, you are correct. I'm even correct. But here, we didn't have 2 and 0. But I'm just trying to show you to say the answers, if we were to find it, you're going to get 2 and 0.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, let me just erase it because most of you will be confused. And then x at c, we know that the x value is 0, as I've just explained. And then because to x at a, it's -2 plus, let me write it like this. Maybe it will make sense. But me, Ankira, I wrote it like this, as in like 2 and 0. But take it as if it's not 2 and 0 for now. But the correct answer is 2 and 0 because of those are the answers that you're going to get actually. But what you can basically do from that formula for the midpoint, try to solve for x. I think you'll get the answer being 2. Try to solve it. Let's see.